Hello, and welcome to another video. It's been a little bit. I've been sick for the past week, so there's not really been any videos posted. Might sound still a little bit sick, but I'm going to try to talk a little bit slower. That way people can understand me a little bit better, because I know I'm not going to be able to enunciate as clearly as I'm usually able to, even though some people still can't understand me, which I apologize. Wouldn't really say I have an accent, it's just that I'm not really... When I was growing up, I didn't actually talk that much. So, yeah, I tend to mumble. But other than that, for the most part, you kind of like get the gist of like what I'm saying whenever I do. Or at least some people do. Some people, I understand that you have a harder issue. But anyway, skipping past that, I didn't really have anything to talk about this match, but I just wanted to commentate this one because it didn't have audio. And I didn't really want to just do another music video just yet. So I want to talk about a couple things. I did end up subbing to the game again. I played the game a little bit here and there. It's pretty enjoyable for the most part. My only issue really is that matches are horrible later on in the day that you go. So typically I'll play earlier and then that's pretty much it. Plus, you know, since I work, I can't stay up too late. So that's just the thing. I don't know if people are interested in playing and whatnot. Still, Sean still seems to be a pretty decent server, especially earlier on in the day. When it comes to like Arena, I think Arena's probably in its worst state ever on Still Sean, but it's a little bit better on not Still Sean, but a little bit better on Still Sean, but worse on Starforge, if that makes sense. I know when Devil Streams it's a little bit better, but it's only so much better, if that makes sense. For obvious reasons, of course. And yeah, we've basically not seen any changes in the game, like overall, since my little break. I didn't really want to sub, but I'm kind of interested in getting the max gear so I can parse. That's the main reason why I want to do it. But I figured, hey, let's talk about some random stuff. One thing that has been on my mind is like the model for them to make money. I think the sub model is kind of outdated and it's not really making them much money at all, because most story only takes about a couple hours to do. If you've already finished the main game, which by the way, majority of the best story that is relatively long is free to play now. You do not have to sub for it, so you can experience basically majority of the game for free. And then when you actually do have the sub, the content that you have is mostly leveling, and outside of that, the story is not very long. So therefore, there's no reason to really sub more than one month if you're only going to play story, therefore losing them quite a lot of money, considering the majority of the community is just story players. Now, when it comes to MMO content, which is where you get the staying power, this is where the subscription money should be going, if anything, because that's the main stuff that keeps people still playing the game, makes people want to stay subbed. Since ranked PvP is gone, there's no reason to be subbed for PvP. You just get your gear, artifact authorization, and you're done. There's no reason to be subbed. Zero reason other than maybe getting like cosmetics or quality of life effects. You can PvP all you want to your heart's content. You can even gear up without needing to be a sub. And also for those that don't have artifact authorization, there's been a trick since like the dawn of time that if you take all your gear out, put it in your inventory, and then log out, log back in, you can put your gear back on. It'll basically reactivate the previously authorized by subscription like thing. It's not a bug, it's just like it doesn't work correctly. So if you just log out and log back in with your gear in your inventory, it usually updates correctly. So you can actually still swap your gear even if you didn't have artifact authorization. So that's one thing to think about. However, if you're buying new gear, that will not be authorized. It's only previously authorized stuff, which is nice to know if you guys didn't know. And you don't really want to pay a sub, and maybe you've been wanting to play, but you don't want to sub and your gear's like randomly placed. But yeah, so for the story, there's just really not much reason to sub anymore. When it comes to PvE, Some of the later end PvE has kind of been abandoned. We could talk about it, but I'm not the best person to talk about it. But let's say, for the most part, it's kind of abandoned, just like PvP. It's less so abandoned than PvP, but it kind of is in the same position. Also, we have like issues where, you know, there was a click off cheese for Fury Marauder that you could click off your Berserk stacks slash Zen stacks so you could get your Berserk faster, therefore you could get your auto crit faster, and therefore you could also have enough rage. They can continuously basically do this loop that is no longer possible and wasn't very applicable in actual raid scenarios that got Fury way over nerfed. Honestly, I really think they should just bring that back. Even if it's in a nerf form, or just like change something else for the class. While I'm talking about that, I can really describe some things. So if you guys are unaware, as annihilation with Spiteful Saber, majority of your damage will actually end up being the reproc tick from Spiteful Saber. It'll show up as rupture, quotations, or not quotations, parentheses, Spiteful Saber, and then you'll see majority of your damage just being slash, and then it'll probably be Dual Saber Throw and Annihilation, probably Annihilation first. Which is really bad. That's over 50% of your damage is pretty much all just slash and sustain tied to that tactical. It has a terrible design, doesn't feel good, Annihilation feels terrible. It's playable, but like just that example is a reason why like we have such issues with PvP, I guess you could say. So for example, when you have a damage profile that's completely reliant on uptime, it doesn't really have anything other than that going for it, it ends up being just not very good in PvP. Arsenal has the Burning Bright option, which is good, but it's a weird spec overall. Like, it has damage, it just doesn't have enough damage spread, if that makes sense. We don't really need auto crit on Rail Shot. It should go to Heat Seeker again. I don't know why they ever changed that. It's really bad. And then on top of that, let's say, what's another one that has that issue? Marksman. Yeah, Marksman. So Marksman has agitating energies. So if you do some damage after you've put a dot on them with certain abilities, it'll refresh the tick, so basically dot damage, once again, and you can see that in star bars too, and it'll have parentheses, agitating energies. This will end up doing a lot of damage, so much so that the difference of parsing with it and parsing without it is quite a big one. And on top of that, when it comes to PvP, there are some tacticals that aren't too bad, but the problem again is the damage profile is not too great, and it's a lot of channeling. A lot of these abilities, or not abilities, but the classes have issues with damage spread not being good, and on top of that, they have an over-reliant sustained tactical that's making up for a lot of the damage that they're losing, and it's the only reason that they aren't complete, you know, poo. There's no other word for it. They are just not very good, and without those tacticals, they are even worse. And unfortunately, trying to explain this to some people, they probably won't get it. They're like, oh, I love Spiteful Saber, it's so good. Yeah, it's so good that you can't play without it. And you can play without it, obviously, but you're going to be at a severe hindrance. You're not going to do as much damage, you're not going to have as much value, if that makes sense. So, definitely pays to pay attention to how much the tactical is actually hindering your class as a whole, rather than helping it because of bad design. Now, with that in mind, we have obviously a lot of issues with that. Tacticals in general, most of them aren't like this, which is a good thing. We don't need tacticals like this. These tacticals are just hurting the classes and making them perform worse in PvP. So if we could steer away from that, that'd be great. I really do think most of the tacticals should just be utility based or defensive based, one or the other. I really like the ideal of implants, which would be set bonuses, to be the utility playstyle change, and maybe just have tacticals be defensive or just base utility. I think that would just be in general better and a little bit more balanced, so you're not actually just scuffing an entire class because they don't have a tactical or they don't have the right step bonus. You really want to give players the option to build the way they want to play or build your own way kind of thing, which was the whole idea of this expansion. Actually just give us options. We just don't have options. Our options are pigeonholed into, oh, 20% crit. Wow, that's really good. I should probably take that. Yeah, of course you should take that. Probably over the other option that does basically nothing. There's some options I think that are really good, like the cooldown reduction on Voltaic Slash for Deception. That's actually sometimes useful for PvP, but not always. The 20% crit is always good. The damage reduction, it's pretty much always good. I do disagree with the slow, but also at the same time, I do feel like that damage reduction should be available somewhere else if the slow wasn't there. So you kind of get my ideal. Talent and utilities definitely need to be changed. I really think we should have more options. And it wouldn't be hard for them to do. They really just need to steer away from all the damage amplification stuff because you get pigeonholed into basically having to take those, which is not good. Other than that, I hope you guys had a wonderful rest of your day. Sorry if you can't understand me that well. But I'll see you guys soon. Again, not me, but another video soon.